Hey, here's a quick tour of Rotobase, the tool I created to help me analyze baseball stats for fantasy purposes. So here's the initial screen. It's Google-esque, just a big search bar. Type in a last name, hit search, and it'll spit out a bunch of stats and graphs. Just a quick look over it. Gives you a playing time graph by month for the previous season, wins above replacement. You can hover over it and it'll tell you the actual numbers that those data points represent. Multi-year trends, so you can at a glance see what kind of performance levels you've got here. And ground ball, line drive, fly ball. And then they got in-season trends. These are pretty cool. I like these. They have a split in the center, so you can go first half, second half. This trend line going across the black trend line going across the top there is his career average. So you can see what last year looked like in comparison to his average performance level by month. So those are really useful. And then you got the raw stats as well as projections in tabular format. And what I did also was take projections from 6 different services and average them to kind of get an expected performance output. Now there's variance between all the projection services, and so that's interesting to see. And I actually have other pages in the tool that give lists of the outliers. So in other words, if this service, Baseball HQ, predicts Pujols to hit far more home runs than anyone else on an at-bat basis, per at-bat basis, then he'll be in a list saying, well, they think he's going to do quite well this year in this particular category. Up top is kind of a quick overview of the player. Programmatically, it spits out some interesting notes about the guy. Basically, it looks for multi-season trends, platoon splits, second half, first half, and if it finds anything interesting, it just notes it at the top. Kind of saves you some time, frees you up to do a little more, to dig a little deeper into the stats instead of having to make notes for yourself for those kind of things. Over here is a bullet graph, and I think this is pretty cool. It's generated for each player, and the black line here represents the average player's performance for the 15th or last place team in the NFBC, and that's averaged over 36 or 37 different teams. So it gives a baseline of the minimum that you would want on your team. Also, the differentiation here between light gray and dark gray in the background indicates the average level from the average player in the top ranked team, first out of 15. So basically, you want these yellow lines, these orange lines, to get as close to this top level area as possible, and you can see how Pujols overshoots it by quite a bit. That's what makes him so valuable, at least in the home run and batting average categories. Down here you got the average draft pick, and I did a regression with a logarithmic best fit to give me a prediction of what that price might be at auction. Basically, you take past data that people paid for a certain player, you regress it on where they went in a draft that same year, and it'll spit out an approximate dollar value that corresponds with that draft pick. And then you got using standing points gains, or standing gain points, excuse me, you can predict what, based on a projected level of performance, how much that'll be worth. And you can see there's quite a discrepancy. Part of that's due to the model. Logarithmic fit kind of overestimates at the top end. If you're familiar with what the graph looks like, it shoots up asymptotically. So there's going to be an overestimation at the top end. But it also takes into account inflation. So it's actually kind of an interesting way to view pricing. And then there's some links here. One's to a spray chart that a guy made an online tool using a PitchFX database, which is just awesome. And if you click on it, it takes forever to load. but basically he generates images of baseball stadiums and plots where every hit and home run lands. And so a quick look at that chart will give you an idea about the kind of opposite field power that a player has, whether he sprays or pulls consistently. And you can see Pujols is just amazing. Hits the ball all over the place with power, which is always a good thing. And another thing to mention is this is all just a locally hosted web application. So, and it's contained within this web app container that's made by Fluid.app. And so it's basically just a browser specific to this one tool. There's also a link to Fangraphs, which is the best, in my opinion, the best stats website on the internet, and links to news on RotoWire. The cool thing about having a database is that you don't have to go to each of these sites and search for these players. You can just click on the link, and that link will take you right to the player information page on other websites. And all you need to do is match up your database ID with theirs, and you have auto-generated links, so you don't have to go around and have a bunch of different tabs open and search different sites. So anyway, in total, a pretty cool homebrew app to help you determine which players you're going to draft in fantasy baseball leagues.